Welcome to this module on performance or achievement level descriptors in the MCA and Alt-MCA. First of all, let's look at where we are at in terms of the switch from the MCA3 and MTAS to the new series of assessments, the MCA4 and alternate MCA. In spring of 25, the first Science MCA4 was administered based on the new academic standards in science. In the same way, reading and math will transition to the MCA4 and Alt-MCA series in spring of 26 and spring of 28, respectively. With this shift from the MCA3 to MCA4 series, you'll see a change in how we are describing the results of the assessment. In MCA3 and MTAS, our different performance levels are called achievement level descriptors. In that series, we also created these descriptors at a benchmark level, called the Benchmark Achievement Level Descriptors, affectionately called the BALDs. In MCA4 and Alt-MCA, we are making a switch to use asset-based language and recognize that the MCA or Alt-MCA is only one of many performances by a student during their academic year. As part of this change, we have renamed the achievement level descriptors to performance level descriptors, or PLDs, and renamed each of the achievement levels. As we transition to the new series of assessments, it will take several administrations of the new assessment to be able to reliably write benchmark level descriptors based on student performance and experience with the academic standards. Because of this, it will take a few years after the first administration for benchmark level descriptors to be written, vetted, and published for each of the tests. Achievement or performance level descriptors describe the knowledge and skills that students of various performance levels are expected to display on an assessment. They show the trajectory of skill advancement as it relates to increases in content difficulty, cognitive level increases with the content, and the context used to present the tasks. There are 4 descriptor levels in both sets of descriptors, but there are different labels for these levels in the MCA3 versus the MCA4 series. In MCA3, the levels are does not meet, partially meets, meets, and exceeds, while MCA4 will describe these levels as beginning, intermediate, meets, and advanced. In each case, the first 2 levels describe the knowledge and skills that are expected to be shown by students who are still working toward learning the standards for the content area at a particular grade or grade band. The second 2 levels describe what it means to be proficient on the assessment. In terms of the timeline and process for developing new performance level descriptors, this is a step for MDE's test development team as a part of implementing and assessing new academic standards. After the standards are revised and adopted, educators write performance level descriptors of what students know and can do on the assessment on their way to showing proficiency in the standards of the assessment. These descriptors are then used as part of standard setting committee that happens after the first administration and is where it is determined what score is necessary for each performance level on that assessment. Standard setting is a systematic process by which trained participants use their knowledge of the academic standards, test items, and student performance to recommend the knowledge, skills, and abilities necessary to attain each performance level. ALDs or PLDs provide the criteria for each performance level on the assessment and define what it means to be proficient. We sometimes refer to these criteria as the cut scores that define the boundaries between each level. Standard setting occurs one time in the summer after the first administration of a new assessment, and then these cut scores are applied to all future administrations as the basis for reporting student results. While our MDE assessment teams develop the descriptors to provide the criteria used to set the definitions between performance levels in a standard setting committee, there are many other ways that they can be used based on their role either as a resource to interpret results, inform classroom instruction, and implementation of standards. We encourage you to consider how these could be a resource of support in your own work setting. So while we've talked about the performance level descriptors throughout this module, there are 2 other important resources that are developed around the assessment as resources for educators, students, and families. The Student Readiness Tools, or SRTs, help students prepare for the online or paper MCA and Alt-MCA that they will be taking. Students select their grade level to review the videos and practice activities, and learn how to navigate within the test, use the tools, and answer question types. The paper SRTs are available for students taking a paper test. The paper SRTs will help students learn to handle the paper test books and materials, and how to select or write their answers to different types of questions. In addition to using the SRT to ensure students are familiar with the test they will be taking, the best way to prepare students for the content of the MCA is to provide instruction that addresses the K-12 standards and benchmarks. Another support, this one intended for use by educators, is the released or sample questions in the Minnesota Questions Tool, or MQT. These released questions are useful for educators while considering how the academic standards are assessed on the MCA and Alt-MCA, to help identify student misconceptions and to provide examples of questions that assess student understanding at different levels of cognitive complexity. Currently, all science MCA and Alt-MCA items in the Minnesota Questions Tool are aligned to the 2019 Minnesota Academic Standards for the MCA4. For Reading MCA and Alt-MCA, we are working on realignment of items to those new 2020 Minnesota Academic Standards in English Language Arts sometime in the fall of 2025. Currently, Math MCA and MTAS items are aligned to the standards being assessed on the MCA3, but that will also be shifting over the next few years as we get closer to that first administration of MCA4 in spring of 2028.